Hello, friends! It's been quite a bit since I made an art video, and even longer since I made one for my yearly art challenge, Inktober. Make sure to get all your art supplies ready so that we can paint together. With this painting, I wanted to create one of my favorite characters, Medusa. I really enjoy the challenge of painting her color scheme as well as the snakes on her head. I haven't painted in quite a while, so I wanted to make sure my skills didn't get rusty as well. I did a painting of Medusa for Inktober in 2019. I also loved the way it came out so much that I decided to do it again. Now, this is also a Q&A of a bunch of questions you all have asked me recently. All art supplies used will be listed within the description below. Got all your art supplies ready? Let's get started. Now on to the first question. When did you feel you had become a professional artist? I'd say I became a professional artist when I finally was able to grasp human anatomy, color composition, and also the composition of an illustration. I feel as an artist, when those things come easy to you, and they can be put together with not too much thought in mind, not saying that it doesn't take time or any type of thought to put your illustrations together, but when it comes to the anatomy of the character that you're trying to draw, or even when it comes to the background and how that would go for you when it comes to creating the illustration for this character, those things are not difficult to put together for yourself. I think that once you come to the point of mastering color, anatomy, as well as composition of an illustration, I feel at that moment is when you start getting into the mastery of things. But I would still say, even for myself, that even though I do feel like when it comes to those things, I have gotten to the point where I am very good at them, I'm still open, and I still want to and desire and even seek to learn new things and always open myself up to challenges, because I always feel like challenges and just pushing myself in the unknown really, pushes me to grow and be better. Next question. Did you go to art school? The answer for that would be no. I am 100% self-taught. Nothing necessarily, I'd have to say, against art school, if you prefer that that be a choice of your own. But as an artist, and also being friends with people who are artists who have gone to art school, I have noticed over the years that there is a big difference between, I feel, the creativity and the ability, rather, to be creative between artists who have gone to school and artists who have taught themselves. To me, the difference is the openness of creativity. Let me explain. Many of the friends that I do have that were artists who went to school, who were taught how to be artists, usually are only confined within the ability of what they were taught to do. A lot of times when you go to art school, well, most of the time, you're usually told to follow the instructions of the specific artist that is teaching you how to draw, i.e., your professor. There's certain subjects that you have to draw based off of what they want you to draw. There's certain things, not saying that they usually aren't allowing you to be creative, but for what I know and understand from the curriculums in which my friends had in school, a lot of them were shown to draw based off of what the teacher told them to draw, rather than those artists that were drawing independently and on their own. There is no limit to what you are being taught to draw, because what you draw is what you choose to draw. And how much of that and all the varieties that do come with that are pretty much boundless. And I've noticed that though they can be extremely skilled, and I'm not taking their skill set away from them at all, but I have noticed that artists that usually go to school for art usually constantly draw most of the same subjects, while artists who were self-taught through many different mediums usually draw many different subjects, many different themes, and just in general, just different things. I've noticed that even when it comes to my friend groups of artists, which, as I said earlier, is a mix of who went to school and those who are self-taught. So that's my opinion when it comes to the whole art school thing. But please understand that if that is what you wish to do, go for it. What is your favorite art program to use? Currently, my two favorite art programs to use are Easy Paint Toolsai and Adobe Photoshop CC 2015. I don't know what happened with Adobe. I was thinking of trying a new Photoshop, but when I noticed that the only way that you could use it is that you had to um, subscribe, um, like, pay for a subscription, I was appalled by that because, okay, at least in the past you could just buy it, and yeah, it seemed like a lot. You had it, and it was just a one purchase. That was it. But now you have to pay a monthly fee, and I'm not with that. So I've been kicking it old school ever since, and I'm happy with the Adobe 15. It's actually really, really good, but hey. But yes, I use Easy Paint Toolsai, the first edition anyway, and Adobe Photoshop. I'm currently trying my hand at learning how to use Easy Paint Toolsai 2. But I might make an art video using that. But we'll see. We'll see. Next question, do you design your own websites? The answer is yes, I do. I am self-taught graphic designer as well as animator, and I greatly enjoy designing my own website with all types of cute little themes and cute characters, and I do enjoy it a lot. Yes, it's all me. Next question, what inspired you to make your manga? Now, let's try to figure out what is being asked which manga, because I have my hentai manga as well as my manga I'm working on, Mutual Crush. But if we're speaking in general here, what inspired me to just make manga in general was just to have more representation of just brown, melanated characters. I mean, most manga doesn't represent brown, melanated people in general. So I just wanted to, create my own stories and everything like that through the showcasing of melanated characters. That's inspirational enough. What is your favorite medium to use? I'd have to say that my favorite medium to use is watercolor and gouache. I do enjoy using watercolor, which was my first one, a lot, and then I started experimenting with gouache later on, and especially since it's more opaque than watercolor, you don't have to put on as much layers paint, and I really enjoy that. I also like inking as well. Inking is nice due to the fact that it's permanent, so you don't have to worry about once it dries and you put water over it, it won't come up like watercolor or gouache would. So I enjoy that as well. So I'd have to say that traditional mediums such as watercolor, gouache, and ink are my favorite. But I still do enjoy digital. I still love digital too. Digital love. Where did you get the confidence to post and make adult content? Well, I've always enjoyed hentai. When I discovered hentai, I've enjoyed it. More specifically, the vanilla variety. If anybody has seen hentai or has been on the site Hentai Haven, you know what I'm talking about when it comes to all the categories that hentai can be in. And my personal favorite is vanilla, which is based around romance between a couple. And over the years, I've noticed not only to push the boundaries when it comes to my artwork, but one of the things that really pushed me to do hentai was just the disappointment of not seeing true, like, melanated characters in hentai. Like, usually, for me anyway, I'm looking at a hentai, it's got this cute girl in it, and she looks like she's like a melanated brown girl, and you're like, oh wow, she's so cute, oh my god, so cute. And then when the clothes finally come off, you see that she's just tanned. And I've seen that so many times. I'm sure some of you have as well. And it can be quite disappointing. Like, okay, she's not an actual, like, melanated brown girl. She's just tanned. Disappointing. And another thing is that I noticed that I didn't like the use of genuine black characters in hentai. Either they were like some type of criminal, some type of bad person, or the purpose of them being there was literally only for just their just sex. And I understand that it's a hentai, so that's what it's about. But most of the characters have more background and more story to them rather than just usually being typecast. And actually got tired of that. So I decided, hey, you know what? I want to make my own hentai. And hence came the shining birth of Moonlight Anniversary, my hentai series. I'm almost done with, by the way, but bear with me with that, guys and fans of my hentai, because I am on the final story. But first, let me work on some mutual crush. Thank you. Next question, did the pandemic set you back at all? I'd have to say yes and no. When it comes to my business and everything like that, because of the whole scamdemic situation, yeah, it did set it back somewhat. But when it came to me as an artist and continuing to be creative and have ideas about my illustrations as well as my business, I'd have to say no. So I'd have to say yes and no. Even further regarding my business, it definitely affected shipping. It's affected orders being sent to customers and me receiving my orders from my suppliers. And when it comes to time and everything like that, a lot of things were slowed down because of that. So outside of that, when it comes to me personally and my ability to create and post illustrations, no, it didn't. Did you experience any depression and in turn couldn't draw or create art during the pandemic? I'd have to say no. Did I experience art block? Yes. But usually when I experience art block, I just stop drawing and start looking at anime or K-dramas, Japanese dramas. I play video games. Doing things like that when you have art block really help a lot. And with inspiration and ideas and all that jazz. As for the depression, no, I hung out with my family a lot during the whole scamdemic thing, so I didn't experience any depression during that time. Thankfully, I had the love and support and everything from my family. So I'd have to say, no, I didn't. But back to the art block thing and not being able to draw, always remember, guys, if you are experiencing art block, just step away from the illustration and just drawing in general. Just go play some video games or take a nice walk in the park. Look at your favorite show, K-drama, whatever that is that you look at. Just take a step back and just relax. Do something else and just let your mind cleanse itself from the artwork, and then you can come back to it re-energized and renewed and jumpstarts some awesome ideas for yourself from then on. Next question, how long did it take you to build your traditional art skills? Hmm. Well, I've been drawing for a very long time, and when I really started putting in some serious work to at least become an artist was when I was around maybe 15, 16 years old. And during that time, traditional at that time was the only way. A lot of the artists back in the days of when I was first coming up were all mostly traditional. There wasn't a really big digital presence, and I'm not saying that they weren't using animation or digitalizing cell shading, but you know, back in the early 90s, there wasn't any type of and even in the early 2000s, there wasn't any computerized animation really. There was a little bit you'd see here and there, but most of all animes or just animations were hand drawn and then scanned over and then put on a computer to be done that way. But traditional has always been first. So coming up in that era of anime and whatnot, I was traditional as well at first. I used to remember going to the computer in my mom's office room and getting a whole bunch of print paper and standing in front of the TV, or well, sitting rather, and watching Sailor Moon and or Dragon Ball Z when it was on Toonami and trying to like draw those illustrations out, by hand. So I'd have to say it took some time, but also at the same time, as long as you continue to draw, work on anatomy, composition, coloring, and all those things, you'll definitely get there. And as I've said in other videos in the past, one of the best ways to jumpstart your traditional illustration skills is by involving yourself and dedicating yourself to a traditional illustration challenge such as Inktober. Inktober has definitely pivoted, for example, it has definitely pivoted my traditional illustration skills. The first Inktober challenge that I took part in was, I believe, 2017, 2018. And at that time, I was very new to watercoloring. I originally only did colored pencils and ink, but with like watercoloring, it requires a lot more detail and skill. So I decided to do that, and it really pivoted my illustration skills a lot. So, as I have suggested to all of you, as well as even some of my friends who were like, hey, I want to get my illustration skills better. How could I do that? Best way to do that, and the easiest way, is to take part and join a traditional illustration challenge. Or even there's Inktober, there's even, I forgot one, sorry, but I forgot what it was called. I think it's called Huevember, I've heard of it. There's Mermaid, there's so many. Even if you wanted to create your own prompt in which you would, create the things that you desire. Anything that can get you drawing. And please remember that to build your illustration skills, you don't need watercolor and wash and inks and all these different types of brands. All you literally need is a pen and a pencil. Get you a couple of Walmart, drawing pads, or even the Dollar Tree ones, and get you a pack of pencils, colored pencils, hey, even pens, and get started. It's the easiest thing and best. and good luck. Next question, are the art supplies you use expensive? Well, I'd have to say some of them are. Usually, when it comes to art supplies, I'd have to say the most expensive usually are watercolor sets, depending on what you get, as well as just paint in general. A lot of artists get a lot of different pens, like inking pens, brushes, and sometimes, I look at the pricing on those things online or even at your local art supply shop. They can be quite expensive at times, but For me, I'd rather put at least some nice amount of change on some watercolors or, ink paint material rather than brushes. Personally, I get my brushes usually at like Walmart or your local paint supply shop. Because they're usually pretty cheap. I usually get like the sets, and I like using either natural fiber or synthetic brushes, and those are what I usually use when it pertaining to brushes anyway. When it comes to paints, my favorite paints are the Mijello Gold Class. Those are my absolute favorites. I'm actually using them now. And I'd have to say to get their 32 set, I believe that I purchased, it was around 70, 80 bucks. But, it's the tubes of paint. The quality is really good for the Mijello Gold Class, so I highly recommend them. And I've had them for years, so I think it's a good investment. But I have to say it depends when it comes to the expense of the materials. I think it has to do with what you're getting. Of course, there's art supplies that are more expensive than others based off of what they are. I mean, for example, even when you look at, like, for example, Copic markers. Copic markers are like really, really expensive. Have I ever bought any Copic markers? No. Would I? No, because they're just way too expensive. I've seen some artists make some really nice illustrations with them, but they're just way too expensive for me. But yes, it depends on what the material and what the medium is when it comes to what you're buying. What do I do if I don't have all the watercolor supplies? Can I still participate in Inktober? Answer to that is yes. As I said in my earlier question, when it comes to traditional art skills and whatnot, and just partaking in Inktober in general, I think that you don't need to have all of these expensive or just in general all these mediums in order to participate in Inktober. Inktober originally was just supposed to be about one medium, and that's just ink. Whether it was a regular ballpoint pen or maybe you wanted to get some Indian ink and just use an ink pen on some paper. The whole thing was to not focus on the medium and keeping the medium simple. For those who have wanted to make it more elaborate, like artists like myself, that's a personal choice. But when it comes to actually participating, it's not required of you to have watercolors and inks and all these different colored inks and gouache and all these different palettes, and you don't have to have all that stuff. Ink is enough. And the whole point of Inktober is to challenge yourself and build your illustration skills. And I think that's why the creator just had people focus on one single medium, so that the complexities of using all different mediums isn't something that would be needed or even around for you to have to fiddle faddle with. You know, you would have to learn how to paint certain type of techniques and being able to control the water and the paint with watercolor and gouache and ink and all that stuff to have a certain desired look. That would require you to learn how to do those things. And you still could if that's what you desire, but when it comes to the simplicity of just partaking in Inktober, it's literally just a pen. No one has to teach anybody who knows how to write anyway how to use a pen. It's literally there to use. So when it comes to using or rather participating in Inktober, all you need is a pen and paper. I've seen a lot of artists, especially I'd have to say maybe last year, more specifically a lot of digital artists talking about how, you know, it's not fair for artists, not for digital artists to be able to participate, not being able to, excuse me, not being able to participate in Inktober because it's based off of one medium and yada da da da. They don't have all these different paints and everything like that to participate in Inktober, but it's literally in the name, Inktober, ink. That's it. That's all you need. You may be seeing artists going in and participating in taking part in more than just ink. They might be using ink, gouache, watercolor, all those things. But that's their personal choice on what they want to challenge when it comes to themselves as an artist. You yourself don't have to do that. And that's not the requirement of the challenge in itself. So, you know, I didn't understand why there were so many, more specifically digital artists. I thought that was really weird. Really complaining about the complexities of how they could not participate in Inktober because they didn't have the medium, which, like I said, most people have a pen and paper at home, and maybe if you wanted to keep your illustrations on one, you know, drawing pad, hey, you can get a drawing pad anywhere. Walmart, any Dollar Tree, Dollar General, whatever's in your neighborhood, one of those cheap places that sell a notepad with 50 or 30 pages for $1. Get 2 of those, a pack of pens, and you're set for Inktober. So, yes, you don't need all that stuff to participate. Next question, why do you participate in Inktober? I believe I've gotten this question many times before. I participate in Inktober simply to challenge and build my art skills. When I first did it in the year of 2017, 2018, I believe, I noticed a huge spike in my illustration skills after I did Inktober. And simply that's why I do it. I do it for that reason, and I always encourage other artists to do it, and participate in it. And even if you don't want to follow certain prompts, because I've noticed a lot of artists will make their own prompts and whatnot. Even if you don't want to do that, I've personally, I've never followed a prompt because I always just want to do my own thing. So if you don't want to follow a prompt, I completely understand. But even if you wanted to make your own prompt, you can do that. Like, there's no limitations to what you can do, because the whole point is to challenge yourself and to push yourself to be able to draw the things that, hey, you have a hard time with. Let's just say you have a hard time drawing hands or male anatomy or even female anatomy. I would highly suggest partaking in Inktober or just any art challenge, or even an art challenge that you have for yourself, that you make for yourself, and just be like, okay, nonstop drawing, okay, nonstop traditional drawing for me for, I don't know, for the month of June, you know, just so you can at least have a couple of hours where you take the time to practice drawing hands, practice drawing females, male anatomy, animal anatomy, whatever issues, or just in general, things that you've never done before, to challenge yourself. You know, I've never drawn a snake before. Hey, let me go ahead and try to draw Medusa. I've never done something like that. Then absolutely go ahead and use references. By all means, references help you learn, references give you inspiration, and references help build your skills. So go the heck on and use those references, get inspiration, do what you have to do, and become an amazing artist. Build yourself up. You got this. Are doing traditional art challenges worth the time? I enjoy doing digital art more. Hey, I completely understand why more people today, I feel, prefer digital because at the end of the day, digital illustration is way easier than traditional illustration because of the fact that digital illustration has it where if you do make a mistake, you can easily go back and you are able to fix those mistakes. Digital illustration doesn't really require you to have to be more careful or be more rather mindful when it comes to the technique in which you are drawing, as well as how and what you are doing at the time. Versus traditional illustration is much more challenging due to the fact that if you make a mistake, you might not be able to go back on that mistake, if depending on what medium you're using. Let's just say I'm painting my Medusa and I'm using green ink and I accidentally dip my brush in the purple ink and start painting one of the snakes. Even if I put water on there quickly, try to have the paper swell with a little bit of water and use some paper towel to clean that up, the purple ink is still going to stain the paper. So unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to undo that mistake, you know? So, but I feel that traditional illustration is worthwhile of the challenge because with being more mindful, it teaches you to focus more on certain details and details of the illustration that you are illustrating. It teaches you to be more mindful about certain things like that. It teaches you to be more mindful when it comes to regards of the drying process of an illustration, or paying attention to what part you just got done painting because the paint is still wet and you need to allow it to dry while you work on other parts of the illustration. Certain details and everything of that nature regarding painting, shading, and all that other stuff. Of course, digital illustrations require that in some respects as well, but there's not an unlimited amount of undos that you can do. There's only so many mistakes that you can make on a traditional illustration until you might have to resketch and revamp that whole entire illustration. Because the watercolor paper is going to absorb the mistakes, and sometimes even when you swell paper with water and use a paper towel to clean up that little bit of color that you accidentally put on, sometimes you can't always get it up, so it'll show in the final illustration. And depending on how you feel about that, you might not want that in your final piece. So definitely digital illustration has its perks because of the fact of its unlimited amount of undos and just being able to constantly be able to fix your mistakes and be able to go back and back and back and back. I do value that of digital art, but there's just something so majestic to me about traditional illustrating and art in general, where when you see these paintings from these people, you know that they took a long time to put work into them. I mean, even for myself, I've had, 18 by 24 paintings that I've made and which I've never even shown, that I have in my living room on my walls and stuff like that took me weeks, if not months, to paint. Especially when you're starting from a sketch and you have a certain type of vision, those things take time. And the reason why they take time is because you have to be extremely mindful and careful about how you go about painting them, because at the end of the day, you don't want to make a mistake, at least too many mistakes, where they show in the painting and you want the painting to look its best. So with that, you must be more mindful and careful about how the painting is conducted. When are you going to work on your manga, Vampire Witch Lucinda again? That's a really good question. I actually haven't gotten that question in a long time. Well, the reason why I stopped working on Vampire Witch Lucinda is because one, I'm soon going to be releasing my manga and also webtoons Mutual Crush. I've been working on Mutual Crush for a very long time. I created the story when I was in high school, and over time I've just been refining the characters and as well as the storyline. Anyone who's been following me knows that at first I was going to release Mutual Crush as an animation. I was going to release a short film, but after that after a while I decided that I was going to make a manga instead. And I thought that it would be better if I created a whole storyline behind the characters and then release the short film. So currently at the moment I'm working on Mutual Crush. After I'm done working on Mutual Crush for a little bit, I'm also going to finish my hentai Moonlight Anniversary, and after I'm done with my hentai and I've gotten to a certain point of Mutual Crush, then I will start working on Vampire Witch Lucinda. So I know those who follow my work, you've seen, me post in the past the character designs and everything of Vampire Witch Lucinda, and I will be working on it. I know I got everybody, pretty much excited, but I just wanted to put it out there of a manga idea, character designs that I did have for that story in particular. But trust and know, in the future of watching my work and following my work, Vampire Witch Lucinda will be coming to fruition, so know that. Next question, how long does it take you to complete an illustration? Well, that depends on what medium the illustration is, as well as the details of that illustration. Usually, if I'm doing like simple type of sketch type illustrations digitally, within a couple of hours. Even if I decide to sketch a traditional illustration, usually only takes a couple of hours, the sketching part. But when it comes to putting together a color palette for it and everything like that, when it comes to both traditional and digital illustration, that takes time. It can take hours, it can take days, or whatever, depending on the illustration and how much detail is going on in the illustration. Like this one, for example. Even though, I'm making one big video of it, it actually took me about 3 to 3 days to finish painting this illustration, because I was taking breaks, working on other projects and everything like that while I was doing this whole illustration. So yeah, sometimes it depends on how much detail and everything that goes into the illustration. And of course, traditional illustrations do take longer to do than digital illustrations because of the medium in which that it is and you switching between different mediums. Next question. Did doing art ever feel like a burden after reaching a certain level of popularity? Well, I'd have to say that I don't consider art and me creating artwork to be a burden. And when it comes to the whole thing about popularity, I think with me doing art, and especially showcasing it publicly online, there have been people who have admired my art and come to a liking for my art and my artistic creativity. But doing so isn't a burden, because a burden is really just something that you do that you really don't like. You do it in a sense of a burden would be something that would be difficult to do. Continuing a burden or having a burden is something that is a bit unmanageable. It's difficult to do. I don't view art and making art in that sense, especially with people finding my art and seeing it and enjoying my illustrations. As for popularity, I don't know. I don't consider myself to be necessarily popular, but even if I did have a supposed in quote bigger following or whatever like that, I still wouldn't look at myself in that sense, only because I don't consider myself an artist in which my value is intrinsic to how many people follow me online or like my art. Um, and I would hope that a lot of artists don't consider themselves to be better artists because they have a bigger following. Because at the end of the day, a following online doesn't intrinsically denote skill. I think being an artist and having actual mastery of self when it comes to skills is more valuable than actually having a huge following online. So, I mean, there's plenty of artists that we've seen, I'm sure that you've seen online, who have these amazing art skills, where they're amazing illustrators, whether it's digitally or traditionally, and they don't have really that much of a following, but their skills are absolutely amazing. And we also have artists that are really big and have these massive followings, but are extremely limited when it comes to their illustration style and what they draw and what they create and how they draw. So popularity and having a certain level of popularity to me doesn't denote your value as an illustrator. And I'm hoping that with this from here on out, you do not, evaluate yourself depending on your following. You can have 200 followers, 2,000 followers, 20,000 followers. At the end of the day, 2 million followers. At the end of the day, you being an artist and your ability to do art is the most important part of being an artist. So, and artwork shouldn't be a burden. I mean, it wouldn't be, especially if you're passionate about it. If you, as a child or even as a young person, have come to yourself and be like, I enjoy artwork. I'm passionate about certain things that have influenced me to love art, whether it's video games, anime, manga, or just comics or whatever. You being passionate about that, is your passion for art a burden? I mean, does you having a passion for becoming an illustrator and creating something make you feel like you're a burden, or that itself and those thoughts and those feelings towards art, is that a burden? I don't think so. I don't think that it is a burden. And it hasn't been a burden for me. And I hope that it's not being a burden for you. Next question. Does your family support you being an artist? I would have to say that when it comes to me and my artistry, I am quite blessed to have a family that fully supports me and my art career. With me being an artist, especially very young, and this was before I decided to pursue it as a career, my mom had always been supportive of me drawing. When I found out about anime, she completely supported me watching anime and everything of that nature. I remember um, the local library that was, excuse me, in my neighborhood. She would go and get different types of animes and whatnot for me and my brother to watch. And even though I was already a fan of Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z, which was at that time currently playing on a show by the name of Toonami, it usually happened after school, in which I would look at that show. My mom would get anime movies like the Sailor Moon movies, and just all these different types of anime series that they had available for renting at the local library. And with that, it fostered me excuse me, to me, a better artist, but it also fueled my passion to want to push myself further. And my mom always pushed me to be an artist, and I really do appreciate that. Even further, with other family members that I do have, of course, like my brother, uncles, and whatnot, they too also pushed me, and I am forever grateful for that. I've heard stories that, quite sad, in which, family members are like, hey, being an artist or just pursuing, not even just being an artist, but just pursuing your own individual dreams and ambitions as a person. Sometimes I've heard stories of family members not necessarily being too positive towards that. They feel like you should go in a different direction because there's not going to be any money, or, you're not going to be successful. And in some ways, they are trying to protect you from, you know, going down a crazy path. But at the end of the day, it's your life, and it's your dreams and ambitions. It's what sparks you when it comes to you as an individual. And if they can see that spark is there for you as a person, they should support that in some which way or form, especially if what you are ambitious about is a healthy and happy dream, like being an artist and whatnot. So, yes, back to the main question at hand. Yes, my family has been extremely supportive. They have been supportive when it comes to encouraging me, as well as supportive in supporting me financially when it comes to business ventures, especially when you first start. Sometimes you don't have the capital. My brand that I have, Chinchira, um, I don't think I would be able to be where I am today with my brand if I didn't have my family invest in my business and, help me out, give me, money and financing to be able to start my business. I have paid them all back and everything. But at the end of the day, sometimes we need that push. We need that support. It makes a world of difference to hear people that you know and love tell you, yes, I do believe in your dreams. Yes, I will support you, and take that chance to help you fuel your dreams and ambitions. And it really makes you good. Excuse me, it makes you feel good on a lot of different levels. And I'm happy I was able to get that support when it comes to my family. And I hope that you guys are getting that support as well. Have you experienced any negativity from others or in general from posting your hentai online? I would have to say I have experienced negativity from others when it comes to posting hentai posting hentai in general. I have experienced it not only for my Moonlight Anniversary series, but I have also experienced it regarding my hentai themed apparel designs that I do have as well. There have been a few postings that I've made where people have dubbed what I was drawing as inappropriate, that I should only be drawing cute girls and, you know, girls that are quote unquote nice and pretty and those types of illustrations that I shouldn't be drawing on characters in that specific theme. So I have received negativity. Has it stopped me from doing what I want to do? No, and it will not. But you're gonna have people who are going to not like what you're drawing. I mean, it's impossible to please everyone. You can't win. You cannot win, and you can't lose. You draw what they want you to draw, and then they're saying, "Hey, don't you draw this or that?" And then it's impossible. It's best that you make the decision to draw and create what you desire and the content in which you want to create. So I would say, no matter what you decide to do, you're always going to come across some semblance of negativity. It's impossible to avoid, but at least you'll be creating something that you want to create and be passionate about, so you can be proud of it. Next question, what advice can you give to artists who are looking to start their own manga comic? If you are going to dedicate yourself to making a comic or a manga, I would say that one of the best advices I could give is to make sure that your story that you have for that said manga or comic is 75 to 80% complete, so that when you illustrate your comic or when you work with an artist to illustrate your comic, you have the written story so that you can conceptualize the illustrations better through the written descriptions within the story. So I think that is a really big help. Next question. Were you nervous to release your manga, Mutual Crush? I would say yes, very. I was very nervous when I released my manga Mutual Crush. Even though, yes, I didn't necessarily have, as they say, cold feet when it came to releasing it just a kiss, only because I did have a bit of experience of releasing my Hentai Moonlight Anniversary prior to it. But when I was releasing the illustrations and the story about it, because at first I was going to make it an animated short, but then I decided to make it into a comic manga. I thought it'd be better to do that to give more context to the animated short that I'm looking to do in the future. Hint, hint. So, I was very nervous. I had never released something like this before, and naturally you would be nervous to release your own creation like that. You know, you never know what someone might say or expect, but I feel like you should still have, you know, the courage to continue forward and, you know, want to put yourself out there in your creations. What are some mediums you have difficulty with? I would say that some of the mediums that I have difficulty with, more specifically, are firstly traditional. I just recently started trying my hand on using some gouache, and I must say, since I am so used to using watercolor, I definitely need to learn how to use it since it's so opaque and whatnot, and it's really meant to be used in an opaque fashion. That is something that I'm not quite used to. So I've definitely been looking at some art videos and trying to figure out how to use it and whatnot. So I got some Hime gouache. I actually just did a video about it. Mermaid or sunset, I believe I posted. So that's actually my attempt of using gouache. I hope it's good. I feel like it came out good. So yes, right now that medium is what I'm struggling with. Next question. Have you ever felt like quitting? And have you ever felt down about your artwork? I would have to say yes. I think that we all as artists and just creators in some respects sometimes feel down about our work, especially with us posting it online for others to see. And sometimes, especially if you have an illustration that you worked so hard on and you thought that you're like, it's gonna be amazing, and you're looking at it and you're just like, wow, it looks so good, and then you post it and maybe it didn't do quote unquote so well. You know, sometimes you gotta take a step back and be like, okay, wait a minute, it could be also the algorithms, because let's face it, the algorithms are made to really only post and recognize the things that are popular and, you know, whatnot. The algorithms really aren't looking for, you know, specific things. Well, they are looking for specific things, but they aren't looking for, oh wow, that's a really nice illustration, let me go ahead and just put that on the home page or something like that. You know, especially with the algorithms these days, it can be very difficult when it comes to posting, and you can get very discouraged. So what I say to that is, keep working hard, keep posting, and keep doing what you love to do. Don't give up, never give up, always fight, rah. Next question, what is the best social media platform to post on? Honestly, you guys, I am sorry, I honestly don't know. The only posting platforms that I personally use are Instagram and Pinterest, and I just recently, within the last 6 to 8 months, have returned back to DeviantArt. So when it comes to, you know, knowing what the best one is, I honestly couldn't tell you guys. I'm not really, you know, on all these social media platforms. There was a time where I did have like a Facebook, and I even tried Twitter. When it comes to you guys using Twitter, I am so sorry. I have no idea how to use that platform, so I deleted my account, and I then only had a Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. At one time I did have a Tumblr, but I let that go too. So I kind of wanted to consolidate my social media platforms as well. It was very stressful for me to be on like all these different platforms. Like, I gotta post on Facebook, I gotta post on Pinterest, I gotta post on Tumblr, I gotta post on Twitter. To me personally, that was becoming a stressor, so I consolidated mine to Pinterest, Instagram, and DeviantArt, and I post on DeviantArt loosely. I post when I remember, so there's that. But when it comes to the best, I'm sorry, I can't tell you guys. Sorry. Best of luck though. here is finally the finished piece of my Inktober's Medusa. I hope you enjoyed her and all these lovely gold mica paintings and everything, these little sparkles and everything. So pretty and everything with her snakes and everything. I hope you all enjoyed my art video, and I apologize for the Q&A being limited, but a lot of the questions were repeated, so I had to knuckle it down to just a few that actually were different. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. All art supplies and everything will be in the description below. I appreciate you all. Thanks for watching.